Before we have a look at entering strings, I just want to go back to sort of the last video and this word defined. It doesn't really occur that much in Python, but in other languages, particularly compiled languages, and Python is an interpreted language, usually you have to say what variables you are going to use in your program before you actually use them. And in Python you don't have to do that. In BASIC you don't have to do that. In Java you would have to. Because we need to, well, I think you would have to, but definitely in C++ or Pascal or another language, you have to tell it what variables you're going to be using before you actually use them. And so if I was compiling this program, value equals input, please enter a random word, in another language, that wouldn't be accepted. It does work in Python, okay? It's accepted, it works. Whoops, running out of real estate. Maybe I should shut the window and run the program again. There we go. Apologies. Please enter a random word. Let's just do 1, 2, 3 because I don't want it to crash. There we go. Let's printed it out. But that wouldn't work in another language. In fact, it wouldn't run at all. It would give me an error as we were trying to go through the program. When you compile a program, it doesn't run it. It looks at every line and sees if there's an error. And when it finds an error, it stops. And it would stop at that point. And what I would need to do in another language is actually define that value equals nothing at all, or even 0. So in C++ or Pascal or another language, that is how I would have to write this program. And that is what is called being defined before you use it. So that's a little aside in this one. That wasn't the main point of this video. That was just to put into context what we were doing with that error message and the word defined. So this time I want to get a word, and as we have seen, if I type a word it crashes. So if I precede input with raw underscore, the second version of input, that is now saying I can accept words, names, any letters from the keyboard and store it in the value variable. So if I save and run that, so please enter a random word, elephant, that's fairly random, press enter, there you go, it prints out elephant. What do you think is going to happen if I run this program and I type in a number? So if you remember when we had a number and we typed in a string, it crashed. But now I'm expecting a string and I'm going to type in a number. Any thoughts? Let's run the program. Please enter a random word, 1, 2, 3, and it prints out 1, 2, 3. Now that value 1, 2, 3 is not a number, it is a string. And we can see that if we came back to print value, and if I try to do some maths with it, plus 2, so if I typed in 1, 2, 3, I'm expecting the answer 1, 2, 5, that is going to crash. So let's run that. Please enter a random word, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're here in the program. Now I'm going to print out 1, 2, 3 plus 2. I would expect 1, 2, 5, but I'm going to get a crash, and it again says can't join the string and integer objects, and I've got a data type error. On this line, print value plus 2. Now we can print them out, as you remember from previous videos, if instead of adding, the join that we do, the concatenation we do, is with a comma. That will now print out 1, 2, 3 if I put that in, and then the value 2, but it will not add them together in any sort of way. So Let's run this program just to show you. So there you go. Enter the random word. Let me get some more real estate. 1, 2, 3. I love Python for doing that. You will get used to that, having to delete what you've copied and pasted or messed around with. Don't worry about it, just get rid of it, no matter where you were. And there we go. I've got 1, 2, 3 and 2. So it's joined them together and printed them out. No way has it attempted to add them. Remember, I cannot add strings, it just joins them together. So if I try to add value and value, now if you remember when we did this, or what I'll show you, with just an input, I would have expected the answer 246. In this one, I'm going to expect the answer 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because it's just joining them together. So let's run that program. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I get my 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's not a number. In no way, shape or form is that a number. It is just a word. So I've used 1, 2, 3 as you would do in an address or maybe a telephone number. And I'll explain later why telephone numbers have to be strings. But maybe you'd want to think about how telephone numbers are laid out, why they're not numbers. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change that for input. Please enter a number. So now I've gone back to just numeric values, numbers. It's going to be stored in value. I'm going to do print value plus value. So this time, instead of joining them together, giving me 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm actually going to perform the maths and should get out 246. So run my program. Please enter a number 1, 2, 3, press enter, answer 246. Notice that I have used variables and it has stored the value in there. It remembers what it was when I input it and uses that number later in my program. That is a really, really important concept. It's how our programs will work. We may get a value, change a value, use a value or a string, and use it much later in the program. It doesn't have to be used immediately. It stores it for later use. An important concept for you to understand. Right, we are now going to move on. We have seen how to print, how to join things together, whether they're numbers or strings. If they're strings, we would get them from the keyboard with raw_input. This is where you'll probably make a lot of mistakes. You'll probably ask for words and just use input, when really you should use raw input. We know we can't join strings and numbers together. We can use a comma if we want to print both things out on the screen. If they're different data types, we can print those out, but we cannot join them or perform any operation on them whatsoever. Now we're going to try and make something useful out of the information we've got. So in the lesson, we put together a basic calculator. We're going to do the same thing now in a video so that you can see how to get information from a user, how to store it, and then act on it later.